Okay, so the Eagles just got a massive update regarding a key offensive starter, as just after Dallas Goedert suffered a knee injury against the Ravens, some new reports have come out revealing the severity of the injury, and it's not exactly great news. However, it does seem like the Birds could be seeing the return of DeVonta Smith sooner rather than later, as a recent roster move that the Eagles just made seems to hint that the Slim Reaper could be back in action as soon as this week. Meanwhile, some key defenders impressed against the Ravens, but it's Jalen Hurts who has put together a quiet case for MVP, all while head coach Nick Sirianni has been doing something historic. So we're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles. And while of course all the focus from the big win over the Ravens has mainly been on things like the defense's phenomenal showing and Saquon Barkley coming up clutch once again in the fourth and strengthening his MVP case, not a lot of attention has gone to the quarterback Jalen Hurts, but he also accomplished something significant on Sunday, at least in the eyes of the fans, as the general opinion seems to be that the top four quarterbacks in the game consist of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, but with Hurts and the Eagles' win over Jackson's Ravens just a couple days ago, that now makes Philly's QB 4-0 against those previously mentioned quarterbacks since the start of last season. So, as much as people want to continue to criticize and doubt Hurts, at the end of the day, he just continues to win no matter who it is on the other side, and he just deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that. Like, honestly, it's like, what will it take for Jalen Hurts to get his name put among the elite in the NFL? I mean, personally, I think Hurts deserves to be mentioned among the best quarterbacks in the game, because again, all the guy does is win. And during the Eagles' current win streak of 8 games, while Hurts' numbers may not be super flashy, he's been such a key part of the Birds' success, as he's made crucial plays both through the air and on the ground. He's bailed the Eagles out and kept drives going countless times. He's delivering the ball more accurately than he ever has in his career, as his completion percentage of 68.4 is a career best, and so is his passer rating of 101.8. And best of all, Hurts has protected the football at an extremely high level, as he has just 2 turnovers in the past 8 games. So I honestly think that what Hurts has been doing is pretty underrated, and it's got head coach Nick Sirianni thinking that he should be in the MVP conversation, as he praised Hurts after the win over the Ravens.
Yeah, you'll say, well, game manager, that's all. Like, Jalen played an awesome game, and his stats are going to say, right, we didn't throw it a lot. We were 11-19. He had 118 yards, but that guy made runs when he needed to make runs. He made good checks. He managed the game in a 4-minute to take the clock down to use as much time as he can. Man, Jalen, we haven't thrown it a lot in the fourth quarter in the past month and a half of the season. So, Jalen's stats aren't going to say that, but Jalen deserves, Saquon deserves to be in an MVP consideration. Jalen Hurts deserves to be in an MVP consideration because of how clean of football he's playing. Like, look at his quarterback rating throughout the last month and a half of the season. Like, Jalen Hurts is a winner. Playing great football. He may not have the stats, but because his team's winning in the fourth quarter, he doesn't get to make those stats. But he's just done such a good job. I just can't say enough good things about how Jalen played in that football game. Even though the stat sheet's not going to reflect that, because Jalen was 11-19. Yeah, he was freaking on. He was on how he managed the game on fourth quarter. He was on about the runs that he made. He was on in the scrambles he made. He was on in the checks that he's made. He was on the third down conversions that we hit and the passes that he hit. This dude's a winner, and yeah, he continues to play good football through our stretch.
First off, I just love Coach Sirianni going to bat for his quarterback like that. And the crazy thing is, even if you want to go based off the stats, Hurts does actually seemingly have a case to be in the MVP conversation, because when you compare his stats to possibly the favorite to win the award in Josh Allen, they look pretty similar, as Hurts has just 50 total yards less than Allen, a higher completion percentage, 1 less total touchdown, and the same amount of interceptions, and the same record. So if that's not a compelling case for Hurts, I don't know what is. Now, personally, I still think that Saquon Barkley deserves the award, but I can see the case for Hurts, although maybe I'm not all the way fully bought into it like I am with Barkley, but I at least do think he deserves a lot more credit than he's been getting. But what do you guys think? Does Jalen Hurts belong in the MVP conversation? You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But now, moving on to the Eagles defense, if you want to talk about the MVP of that group, there's a few different guys that you could maybe point to, but I think it's only right to give defensive coordinator Vic Fangio his flowers for coaching these guys hard, getting everyone bought in, and turning this defense into the best in the league after bouncing back from a slow start. And it's very apparent when looking at last year's Sean Desai and Matt Patricia-led defenses just how much of a difference that Vic Fangio has made. And Nick Sirianni actually talked about how much of a difference Fangio has made in his press conference on Monday.
Yeah, he has a really good feel of how to call the game. I really feel that. He's always on top of it. has a good feel for what's coming, have a good feel for how he needs to adjust, how he needs to adapt. He's obviously done a great job of leading the defense in so many aspects, and so so happy that he's here and that he's we have one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL as our defensive coordinator. I can't say enough good things about him and what he's brought to this team and what he's brought to this defense. There's a reason why he's been a good defensive coordinator for decades in this league. It's because he's always growing and always getting better. And that's what we want our players to do, and he's constantly doing that. And what a great example for our players.
Again, Vic Fangio just deserves so much credit for the Eagles' success this year, and he really just has everyone on defense playing at a super high level. And that includes the Georgia Bulldogs, or the Philly Dogs as they've been dubbed by the Philly faithful, as after many of them had been doubted coming into the season, they are all playing at a pretty high level and making notable contributions to the Eagles' defense. And one of those guys who has continued to trend up throughout this entire season is edge rusher Nolan Smith. And he may have just had the best game of his young career so far against the Ravens, as with BG out, Nolan played an 81% of the Eagles' defensive snaps, which was the highest among the edge rushers, and he was ready for the increased role as he finished with 8 tackles, 3 pressures, and a sack. And Smith now has 4.5 sacks on the year, which is tied for 3rd on the team. So just shout out to him for continuing to get better, even when many had counted him out as recently as this preseason, which, looking back on it, it's just insane that there was a portion of the fan base that was ready to give up on Nolan during the preseason. And then another Philly dog who Vic Fangio has playing at a high level is the guy on the team who Nolan Smith is tied with in sacks, and that's defensive tackle Jalen Carter. And he is also coming off another absolutely dominant performance, as he just put up 8 pressures, 7 QB hurries, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack against the Ravens. And honestly, performances like this have just become routine for Carter at this point, as he's another guy that just seems to keep getting better. And what makes it crazier is that Carter probably would have put up even better numbers if he wasn't getting held literally every single play with no call. Like, look at some of these from the game where Carter is just being blatantly held onto, yet the refs wanted to act like they didn't see anything. And this is just one of many examples of the refs kind of screwing the Eagles over this year, as the Birds are one of the least penalized teams in the NFL, yet they somehow have one of the worst penalty differentials in the league, which makes absolutely no sense. And if you ask me, it shows a clear problem with the NFL officiating and a clear bias against the Eagles. And Eagles Hall of Fame linebacker Seth Joyner actually ranted about this after the Ravens game.
Nick Sirianni needs to submit some of these non-holding calls that the referees are missing on Jalen Carter in the backfield. Jalen Carter is being held on almost 50% of the times where he's rushing the passer or he makes a move in the run game, and the referees are acting like they don't see it. I think Nick Sirianni needs to submit some of these things, as a point of emphasis. How about you take a look, either the head referee or the back judge, whoever it is, take a look at what's going on with 98, because especially when he's one-on-one, he can't be blocked, and you can't tell me that you don't see it, because that little area, that guard center guard box, that's the area that you're responsible for watching and then following the football, and he's right there in the mix and they're missing it so many times. They need to fix that.
Yeah, I completely agree with Joyner there, and Sirianni 100% should submit some of these to league because it's just getting ridiculous at this point. That being said though, really no further emphasis should be placed on it, as the Eagles just need to control what they can control at the end of the day, and their focus should 100% be on the Carolina Panthers and getting better this week leading up to that matchup. And that work began yesterday on Monday, immediately after the win on Sunday, and the cool thing is, despite not having a break, the Eagles players were actually excited about getting right back to work after the win.
We're working tomorrow. Yeah, we're working tomorrow. Get to work tomorrow. We got a lot to be thankful for. Let's pray.
I think this is just awesome, because it not only speaks to how much fun this Eagles team is having right now, but it also speaks volumes about the culture that Nick Sirianni and the Birds have built, to the point where they're excited to get right back to work and to try and get better after a hard-fought win. So that's definitely awesome, and I think Nick Sirianni does deserve a ton of credit for building a culture like that, and he also deserves a ton of credit for doing something historic, as the Eagles are now 10-2 or better for the 3rd straight year in a row under Sirianni, and he is just the 8th coach in NFL history to do that, and just listen to the 7 other guys that have done it, as those names include Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Tony Dungy, Mike Shanahan, Mike Ditka, John Madden, and Curly Lambeau. So that's some pretty elite company to be in as a head coach. and we honestly might be getting to that point where some apologies have to be issued to Coach Sirianni if things keep going the way they're going. Unfortunately though, as Sirianni and the Birds are getting back to work this week ahead of their matchup with Carolina, they just got a massive update on tight end Dallas Goedert, and it's not exactly ideal. So we're going to get into that in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this coming throughout the rest of the season, then make sure you subscribe, and also really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss any of the Eagles coverage or content I got coming on this channel. I cover the Birds pretty much daily here during the week, so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Eagles news, this is the spot. So again, subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like to show some support, because that really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes today. And now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So in case you missed it, Dallas Goedert did actually end up going down with a knee injury late in the win over the Ravens, so the questions then immediately were, well, how serious is it and how long could it keep him out for? And on Monday, the Birds got the answers to those questions, and reporter Jeff McClain revealed them to the public in two separate tweets, as he first said, quote, Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert's knee injury wasn't deemed serious upon initial diagnosis. He'll undergo further testing today, but the team is hoping for just a sprain, an NFL source said. And then later, McClain said, quote, after an MRI, Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert's knee injury will likely sideline him on a week-to-week basis, an NFL source said. Goedert could be a candidate for short-term IR based on his recovery, but the injury isn't season-ending. So I guess on one hand, it is definitely good news that the injury isn't too serious, and of course it's not season ending, but hearing that it could potentially land him IR isn't exactly great, as of course if that were to happen, he would then have to miss at least the Birds' next 4 games, so that would not only be a big blow to the Eagles offense, but also for Goedert individually, it just sucks, because the soon-to-be 30-year-old tight end just cannot seem to stay healthy recently, as he's missed significant time in each of the last 3 seasons, and he already had to miss a stretch of games earlier this year, so again, missing another chunk definitely would not be ideal, but it looks like that's what's going to happen. And at this point, Eagles fans are kind of getting fed up with Goedert's injuries, and I've actually seen a lot of people saying that they need to find a way to move on from him soon, or they at least need to draft a tight end this coming April, and that definitely does have some merit to it, but I'm not going to focus on that right now, and the goal should just be to get Goedert back fully healthy before the playoffs, and hopefully Grant Calcaterra can hold it down in his absence like he did earlier in the season. And the good news for the Birds offense is that with Goedert going out, they could at least see the return of star receiver DeVonta Smith this week, as after missing 2 straight games with a hamstring injury, all signs point to him making his return against the Panthers. As not only did Smitty return to practice last week and was a limited participant both Thursday and Friday, but the Eagles also just made a roster move that could possibly indicate that he could return this week, as they went ahead and waived wide receiver Paris Campbell after signing him to the active roster for Sunday's game. And while Campbell will likely find his way back to the practice squad, you gotta wonder if the move to waive the wide receiver indicates that another receiver in Smitty could be back this week, but we will get a much better idea of where DeVonta is at in his recovery and whether he will actually play on Sunday when the Birds get on the practice field starting tomorrow. And you guys know that I'm going to be covering that, as well as all the news leading into the Eagles vs. Panthers matchup, and also all the news throughout the rest of the Eagles season. So again, if you guys don't want to miss any of that, make sure you subscribe, and also really importantly hit that notification bell. And also again, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Again, let's see if we can get to 600 likes today, and also leave a comment down below, because that really helps me out a ton as well. Just give me your thoughts on anything that I talked about in this video, and if you want to watch another Eagles video going over their win over the Ravens, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.